The interplay between the core and the edge has become one of the hottest topics in the industry for the past few months. Bring in 5G and you got the perfect storm in place. Joining me now is Lauren Long, co-founder and chief strategy officer at Dartpoint Data Centers, who is going to shed some light on the cloud, edge, and 5G markets. Lauren, thanks a lot for talking to me.
Absolutely.
Where are we with this perfect storm? What is this perfect storm about?
You know, the perfect storm for the last few years has been a lot of hype and excitement. I'm not gonna downplay it as or be negative as far as hype, but it's been a lot of excitement, a lot of anticipation, and maybe too positive in terms of what we see is driving this.
Okay, so you feel there's a sense of over-optimism in the sector right now?
Well, what I hear a lot from the companies that are working on the application layer, so far up the stack from where the data center exists, you know, the IoT, autonomous vehicles, and even coming further down to simply software platforms or the hardware on which it runs, they all make the assumption that the data centers are just going to magically be there.
Okay.
You know, you draw a cloud and says, you know, poof, it's there. And as one of the companies that actually has to invest and deploy and operate, we're still waiting for the business case to show up at scale.
Okay, so in other words, the market still needs to educate itself to fully understand what's coming.
Well, I think part of it is, so let me first take a step back, and I know everyone offers their definition of the edge, and I don't want you to have edge fatigue, but I want to look at edge in terms of a process or an idea.
Okay.
And it is the chaotic disaggregation of the status quo.
Okay.
And it's a disruptive technology, and like any disruptive technology, it's not going to come into play in an organized fashion that plays well with the existing infrastructure, business networks, et cetera. So, with that, we're going to see the edge, if you will, happen sporadically for different reasons around business cases that will then lay the foundation for a more systematic deployment, say in 2 to 3 years, once there's enough for all the people that I talked about to have a place to go.
Okay, that's quite interesting, but then there's also a lot of hype around 5G.
There is.
And even though there's a few things going on with all these sanctions around the world, the 5G might get a bit delayed. Some people do think that 5G is going to depend on edge. Some people think that edge is all about 5G. What's your view on that?
So here's my view. 5G is a great technology that will be paid for by the mobile operators.
Okay.
And it's going to be really expensive. And they're going to need to recoup that investment. Number two, I think that most of the benefits for the consumers aren't dependent on an edge data center play involved. It's the antenna. It's the speed of the antenna. It's the change in the architecture for 5G. Last but not least, you know, when we talk about what we see as the edge, it's the multi-tenant, network neutral edge that allows application providers, hyperscalers, you know, over-the-top applications and content to coexist with the carriers, and that mentality doesn't exist yet. There's still a bit of a rivalry.
Okay. So
that has to change first before 5G is going to become a big push for the edge market.
Okay, and then I'm going to throw that out there. When you say that 5G is going to be really expensive for telcos, could that be one of the reasons why they are divesting the data center portfolios to help pay for 5G deployments?
I think that could be it. I think there's probably a lot of reasons. I mean, data centers are expensive.
We're not talking about like a cheap industry anyway.
No. And you know, I think it could be very similar to you know, to the tower divestiture. It's that they realize that that's not a core part that they need, and I don't know that it's necessarily fundraising, but it probably helps.
Okay, yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then in terms of data center operators and what they're going to get from 5G, how are the two going to work together? So how is 5G going to impact or benefit the data center operators?
I think it will in the future. You know, again, you know, kind of like similar to the autonomous vehicle discussion, the IoT discussion, a lot of those technologies require ubiquity.
Okay.
You know, until that capability exists everywhere, you can't roll it out. If a truck can't go from Los Angeles to Atlanta and stay on the same network, then it can't be counted on. So again, I think it'll be spotty, it'll be chaotic, and it'll be a few years before it hits a harmony.
It'll be interesting to see what use cases come out of it, though. And then for Dark Point,
Right.
you've been working quite a lot. You've been building and expanding and talking a lot
We
about
have.
new solutions. What's the company state at the moment, and what have you got planned, let's say, for the next 12, 24 months?
Okay, so the great question. We are excited. You know, having been founded in 2012, we were possibly a bit early, but that gave us the benefit of making a lot of mistakes. And learning from those mistakes to prepare for today. We very purposefully focused and stayed small.
What's like the biggest mistake you've made that you've learned something really good?
The edge is not built speculatively.
Okay.
So unlike the big data centers
Yeah.
that find a location that's, you know, good land, good power, good regulatory, let's build a data center and bring the customers to us. Our data centers are built specifically at a site because a customer's told us to be at that site.
Okay.
So that's the big difference. And don't build on spec, because how do you know what the right site is until
Bespoke
somebody
age of
tells you?
data centers.
Right. But to answer your other question, we are now starting on our nationwide deployment with customers, with a solid business model of why we're doing it, and that's going to start the big deployment.
Would you consider expansion outside the US as well?
Absolutely.
Especially Europe?
100%.
Yeah, Europe, Asia, even
Yes.
emerging markets like Latin America, Africa, everything's on the
Emerging
table.
markets are even more exciting.
Okay, and then we are at the Data Cloud 2019 as well. So how important is this soft conference for a company like yours?
Oh, I think it's. I've had a lot of great meetings, a lot of great discussions. I think especially the best part of this conference I've seen, the Edge represents the merger between the traditional telecom and the traditional data center. And a lot of the people that I've met here and spoken with share that mentality.
Okay.
They see the convergence.
Common ideals.
Right.
All right, Lauren, thanks a lot for talking to me.
Absolutely.
Don't forget you can follow Data Economy on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, and also visit the website on www.data-economy.com.